about like there normally is.
Well, good evening. Call the regular meeting of the Ames City Council to order for Tuesday, November 25th. We're going to start off with a proclamation, Wreaths Across America Day. Wreaths Across America Day. Whereas the National Wreath Across America program began in 2007 as an expansion of the Worcester Wreaths program for laying wreaths at the graves of veterans at Arlington National Cemetery each holiday season, and whereas the mission of Wreaths Across America is to remember the fallen, honor those who serve, and teach our children the value of freedom. This mission is symbolized by laying holiday wreaths on the graves of fallen heroes in December of each year. The theme for 2025 is Keep Moving Forward, based on the final words of U.S. Army Captain Joshua Byers, who was killed in action in Iraq in 2003, and reflects the organization's ongoing mission to remember, honor, and teach. And whereas the Wreaths Across America program in Ames is organized by the Ames American Legion Riders with support from the American Legion Auxiliary, and the Sons of the American Legion. Due to the holiday, the 6th annual wreath ceremony will take place on Saturday, December 13th at 11 a.m. at the Ames Municipal Cemetery, with wreath placement immediately following the ceremony. And whereas there are approximately 1,900 veterans laid to rest in the Ames Municipal and Ontario cemeteries, and wreaths will be placed on each of their graves, and whereas Ames residents owe a deep debt of gratitude to all who served, are serving, and will serve in the armed forces. The Wreaths Across America program in Ames is an outstanding example of how we honor the sacrifices made by our fallen veterans. Therefore, I, John A. Haleb, Mayor of the City of Ames, Iowa, do hereby proclaim Saturday, December 13th, 2025, as Wreaths Across America Day. I encourage Ames residents to join in extending thanks and appreciation to our veterans and their families for their service and sacrifice. And I think, Jamie, are you going to make a few comments?
I will. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, thank you, Mayor Hala, and also all you city council members and guests in attendance. My name is Jamie Barker, and I'm the chair of the Wreaths Across America sponsorship group here in Ames. And we'd like to invite you, as Mayor Hala mentioned, on December 13th at 11 o'clock to come out to our ceremony. We do one ceremony at the municipal cemetery, so that's where we'll have the actual official ceremony. And then following that, we'll lay wreaths, and then we'll go to the Ontario cemetery and complete the mission there. It does take, as he mentioned, a long time. Laying 1,900 wreaths requires many volunteers. Our mission is to say the veteran's name aloud at each grave, thanking them for their service. We welcome all hands for this event, including children. The pillars of the Wreaths Across America are to remember the fallen, honor those serving, and teach the value of freedom. In part of this mission, I've left some additional information in the back of the room, and I left some on your city council areas there that talk about the 10 balsams that are the bouquets that are part of the wreath. And they're meant to tell you about the qualities of our veterans. So that is, I thought that was kind of neat. It might be a neat thing to see. And also with the Thanksgiving holiday coming up, it might be something you could share with some of your family and maybe some of the younger generation. And that helps us complete the teach portion of our mission. The Ames Legion Riders took on this project. We also call it a mission. And we fundraise all year long, apply for and obtain generous donation, grants, and sponsorships, including from the city of Ames, which we very much appreciate. And we welcome volunteers. Many of you are usually with us out there. And I'm proud to tell you once again that the Ames Municipal and Ontario cemeteries will be 100% covered. Mr. Mayor and City Council members, we appreciate your unwavering support of our program. And I just have one thing that I'd like to give to our mayor, which is a challenge a challenge coin from the Reese Across America Foundation. We get one each year, and I think it's important to give this to you this year because you have been with us every year since we started, and we very much appreciate that. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Riders, if I could just get a quick picture with the mayor up here, that would be great. Oh, thank you. I know, sorry. Sure. While we're waiting, Cliff's going to address you for just a few minutes too.
Yeah, thank you very much. As commander of the Ames American Legion, it's a very proud moment for me to stand up here with the riders. What I wanted to say is because of the support that we've gotten from the city of Ames, there are other riders chapters now in the state that are doing this as well. Most recently is up in Manly. They're taking on a local cemetery of their own, and they've used us as an example and said, if you can do it with your community support, so can we. It kind of sets us a little bit different from the National Cemetery in Van Meter and in Keokuk. So thank you very much for all of your support.
Can I get in here?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, once again.
You might want to remind them about, you say the name because that's one of the veterans forgot.
Okay. Okay, I was asked to tell you one neat thing, and I will tell you, sorry, I'll speak in the microphone, that this is why us riders decided to take on this mission. And that is when we had someone come talk to us about Reese Across America, they tell us that a veteran dies twice. And, well, everyone dies twice. Once when they actually physically take their last breath, and then when their name is no longer said. So that's what we say in Maine when we say that we want to say their name and thank them for their service. So thank you very much, everyone. I did leave some materials in the back of the room. So some of what I gave you city council members, you could pick up in the back if you want another copy. And also just a flyer of the date reminding everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to consent. Is there any item that council wishes to pull tonight from consent? Also might note, working from an amended agenda, which struck item number 13 from the initial agenda. Hearing none, entertain a motion to approve consent.
Move consent.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Betcher.
Aye.
Beatty Hansen.
Aye.
Rollins.
Aye.
Corriere.
Aye.
Garten.
Aye.
Junk.
Aye.
Thank you. We'll move on to public forum. This is time we set aside for comments from the public on topics of city business other than those listed on the agenda. Council will not take any action on your comments at this meeting due to the requirements of open meeting law, but may do so at a future meeting. If anyone wants to address council tonight during public forum. Bonnie?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. My name is Bonnie Alley at 5306 Bradbury Court. I am the Director of Business Development at Discover Ames. With Thanksgiving just 2 days away, this season naturally pulls focus towards gratitude, reflection, and the people who make our community stronger. Tonight, I would like to express deep gratitude and appreciation for someone who has spent decades pouring into the meaningful work in Ames. That person is Chuck Winkleblack. Until I became more involved in the link conversations, I'll admit I wasn't fully grasped the impact of Chuck's fingerprints on our community. When you take a closer look at his work, you see stabilized neighborhoods, renewed corridors, and major projects that quietly moved from idea to reality. You start to see how much of our daily life in Ames is shaped by people who quietly give years of service without ever asking for applause. As we enter another important chapter of our city, I would like to thank him publicly. the link development, along with the components within, stand on the foundation built by people like Chuck. People who believed in Ames long before the project was ever discussed. People who said yes, who took risks, and whose choice to build rather than to stand still. And that is why this moment matters. This project is not about just buildings and square footage. It's about people. It's about the leaders, the partners, and the generous hearts of those who help Ames stay vibrant, resilient, and future ready. Chuck's dedication is a meaningful part of that foundation. As the process continues, and as we head into the holidays centered on gratitude, I hope we continue recognizing those who move Ames forward. Community impact doesn't come from one big decision. It comes from years of steady leadership, innovation, generosity, and vision. Chuck embodies that, and the community is better because of him. Thank you for giving me the space tonight to lift up his contributions, and I wish you guys all a warm and meaningful Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Bonnie. Anybody else? All right, we'll close public forum. Move on to item number 20, request to share costs for paving a 150-foot extension, Southeast 3rd Street.
Hello, Council. We have a unique request and kind of a unique situation. I don't think we've seen this in the past 10 years. As you saw in the staff report, we had previously thought we were going to do a street extension project, which would have benefited some undeveloped lots at the end of Southeast 3rd Street. A couple of years back, the city public work director recommended to not move forward with the Cherry Street extension project as it was known at that time. And then since then, the extension of 3rd Street has laid undeveloped and waiting for future development in this area to occur or for the city to take on a street project. We have a development agreement in place that says that the developer was not obligated to extend the street, thinking that the city would do that. However, if the city did not, then the developer of those lots return to having the normal obligation of doing street improvements. So in this circumstances have occurred, you now have a request for a cost share, asking for a partial sharing of the cost for the short extension of 3rd Street, not involving the full construction of a connector street through the area. So what's on the table tonight is simply two options. One, to agree with the proposal and ask staff to modify a development agreement to share in that cost, or to return that obligation back to the developer of the lots to do the street extension. What is really unique overall is that if you choose to proceed, normally this would have to turn into a publicly bid city project using the public works staff to do that, which kind of encumbers the CIP, encumbers staff time, and is usually something that needs prioritization. In this unique situation, the project cost is low enough that the city can do it on a reimbursement basis and not have to be the lead. So there's usually an issue of assigning resources. Tonight, if you do choose that, there isn't necessarily a resource issue in terms of staff time and priorities. It's really a financial question of whether you want to participate.
What's your recommendation?
Staff's recommendation is that in this case to participate up to $30,000, provided that the developer's proposal does indeed qualify as a project that does not need to be a publicly bid public improvement. So if ultimately the details change, then we can't do it this way, and then we would not participate.
Thank you. Questions? Open up public comment. Anyone want to address council on this topic tonight? Close public input. There's no questions. Entertain a motion.
Move alternative one.
Second.
Thank you. Those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Motion carried. Very good. Move on to item number 21, hearing on zoning text amendment for South Lincoln Sub-Area Mixed Use District Single Family Design Standards. Kelly?
So earlier this summer, you received a request from Mr. Gregory to consider some changes regarding design standards we have in the South Lincoln mixed use area. We have design standards apply both to single-family homes, not both, single-family homes, multifamily properties, and commercial. Specifically, the request is for 1 and 2 family home properties, and it was narrowed down to corner properties only. So the issue is you have 2 street facades on corner lots, and they both had design requirements. The home that Mr. Gregory was trying to build was compromised in his eyes about having to meet those standards on 2 facades. So council consented to let text amendment come forward. What's proposed here is consistent with that discussion in the summer. It lengthens some of the facade allowances, changes some, reduces some of the recess requirements. Most significantly, it alters the street side setbacks on a corner lot. The street side that isn't your front has a reduced setback, so the building can get closer to the street and give more space on the property for the home. And then the final detail is really that the roof form doesn't necessarily have to have gables or dormers on both street facades. It will be required on the front facade still, just like we would expect for all of the historic character of that area, but the side street would not have to have those features. So we're recommending approval. It's consistent with the discussion we had back in the summer. Has limited applicability, again, only to a handful of corner lots in this one specific zoning district.
Thank you, Kelly. Any questions? All right, declare the public hearing on this zoning text amendment to be open. Is there anyone who wants to address council on this particular issue? Seeing and hearing none, declare the public hearing to be closed. Entertain motion on first reading ordinance.
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Beatty Hansen.
Aye.
Rollins.
Aye.
Corriere.
Aye.
Garten.
Aye.
Junk.
Aye.
Betcher.
Aye.
Very good. Move on to item number 22, hearing on lease of city property located east of 731 Billy Sunday Road, now known as Lot 3 of Billy Sunday subdivision, to Lamar Advertising Company. Staff is requesting to continue the public hearing to December 9th, 2025. Is there a motion?
So move. Second.
Those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We'll move on to item number 23, resource recovery and recycling campus project update. Justin. And Brian and Mark.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Thank you, Susan. Tonight, we have an update for you regarding the Resource Recovery and Recycling Campus. The last time we were in front of you would have been in June of this year, where we presented a conceptual design for the Resource Recovery and Recycling Campus. And at that time, we really had really high-level conceptual design details. And since that time, we have started a final design contract with HDR Engineering out of Omaha, Nebraska, and also have Story Construction of Ames here on board as our construction manager. So we wanted to go through some of the details tonight and bring you up to date on where we are at and some of the upcoming activities. So as you see on the screen here, here's a general 3D rendering of what the facility may look like in its final form. And tonight we'll talk about the overall site layout, scale houses, processing equipment, talk through some financials, and then some of those upcoming steps. So the first thing I want to remind through all these slides is, excuse me, we are at a 60% design phase. So that means that these things will be changing a little bit as we continue to move on. We've got the general layout of the site, we think, laid out how it will best serve the facility and the users of that facility. But there might be some details that change from now until bid time. And I'll go through some of the changes that you might see here. The first thing I want to talk about is the tunnel configuration. If you remember during the conceptual phase, we had talked about a tunnel being possibly 13 to 14 feet deep under this facility, running through the entire facility itself. Part of our value engineering analysis and also working with our designer is this view you see on the screen here. This is a half height tunnel. So the existing ground is here where the cursor is. If you can see the mouse up there, the red dot. We will elevate the site for the transfer station about 4 feet. That will get it out of the floodway elevation, and that will allow us to have the facility being used at any time during flooding should occur in that area. But with that, we have a half height tunnel that's going to go down 4 feet. So with that 4-foot minus elevation there, we really minimize the amount of excavation that's needed. So it will really save on some costs. And also it makes it a little bit easier from an operational standpoint. So we don't have giant grade changes on the site, and we can use this a little bit easier that way. I want to go through a few things that you might see here. This orange path that was drawn on the screen there is the path that the commercial haulers will take into the facility. So they will come off the drive on Friel Drive over the scale house, come through the tipping floor to tip their loads, and then exit back to the scale house as well, and then back onto the way to collect more refuse. So that's pretty similar to what we had last time, except for this, during this concept, we are no longer going through the facility. We're actually making a U-turn and go out. And that was important when we talked to the haulers about the use of this facility and how they utilize our current facility and how they want to use it in the future. So we did have conversations with them to make sure this fits with how they use the facility as well.
Could you stand there just for a second?
Absolutely.
We had talked last time about making sure there was enough room for trucks coming in. So what are your thoughts just in terms of the timing of trucks coming in and making sure that we're not backing trucks way up on Friel?
Yeah, great question. So a lot of times what happens is the trucks currently at the facility are already spaced out enough. There's not a lot of queuing space in our current facility.
Right.
So the haulers naturally sort of do that because they don't want to wait any longer than is necessary. But if you notice, we probably have 100 feet longer than what we currently have within our current facility to stage trucks. So I don't think we'll see much staging there. The other thing that goes on here is with these scales being newer scales, we can get the trucks across them pretty quicker. If we start seeing backups, we can utilize some other methods of making sure that we're timing that with the haulers a little bit better. So we think there's an operational change that we can do there to make sure we're not stacking trucks on Friel Drive.
Okay, thanks.
The second line being drawn here is where our transfer trucks will move around the sites. They will enter on the south drive, come around the back side of the facility here, and enter through the transfer tunnel. That's where the shredded and processed solid waste would be put through the tunnel into the trailers themselves. And we'll talk a little bit more here in a minute about a preload compactor option that we've got as well. But then they will come out through the scale house again, scale through, scale out, so we know the weights before they get on the road to ensure that we have the proper amount of weight on the truck, and they will exit the site on the northern drive. The third route I want to demonstrate here would be our yard waste route. So they'll follow a similar route to that transfer trailer. However, they'll go back to the yard waste storage and processing area, come back through to the scale house on their way out, where we can assess payment or whatever fees are necessary to utilize the yard waste area in however that those days lay out.
Justin, is that for residential use, or is that for commercial use? And if it's not for commercial, how is commercial? Would commercial be just?
It'll be for both. So the commercial haulers may have to come through and scale in. We still have to develop how that fee will work for them. So that's part of the operational plan that we'll have to have for that. But this is primarily thinking this route here is for those yard waste days when community brings yard waste into the site. This will be the primary path that they will choose. And we'll need to figure out the best days to do that, because obviously we'll be processing waste to ensure that we don't have issues with the material crossing site and whatnot there.
Yeah, we may be looking at different days and times where yard waste would be accepted that would be different than the days and times that we would be having solid waste disposed of there. So it might be that yard waste comes later in the day for individual haulers, individual residents, if they're dropping off yard waste.
Yeah,
After all the haulers have already come through and dropped their loads on.
trying to envision how the commercial haulers are going to navigate that site going back with the yard waste. I don't know. Okay.
The last one that I want to really point out here, and this is probably one of the biggest changes from what you saw the first time, is what we call the car line or the customer convenience area. This is where you will take your sorted recycling, and this will also be the place where you'll now take your solid waste as an individual customer. So we will no longer bring customers onto the tipping floor where we would merge traffic with the commercial haulers. We propose to bring them through the scale and take the first right and over to this area right here. And this is where, as I said, the recycling will be there. We will have dumpsters for the municipal solid waste. The exact layout that you see here will be different. We're already modifying this a little bit for an operational use in the facility where we can access the solid waste dumpsters a little bit easier. Household hazardous waste would also be in this area, but We want one spot where an individual customer coming to seek services at our facility can go to, and this is the area that's going to work out for them. And so that's different than what you saw before, but we feel like there's some advantages to separate the car line traffic from the commercial hauler traffic.
So just saw this, and that is when we go down and drop stuff off at the resource recovery plant, usually I have lots of company. There's 3-4 people a lot of times there, and they're getting bunched up, which is fantastic. It's a good problem to have. What thoughts do you have in terms of if you have people stopped at the first one to unload solid waste and someone else is coming and they want to drop off recyclables, someone else wants to drop off hazardous waste? Is that driveway wide enough people can get around and navigate so they're not waiting and getting frustrated while someone's unloading at a spot where they don't want to be at?
Yes, this is the part of what you're talking about. It's a reconfiguration of the solid waste, which will likely be the most used area to start with at this facility. So it'll be reconfigured a little bit more of a horizontal with a Z-type wall in there. It provides more area for the vehicles to pull up to the dumpsters and be able to use those. But this is wide enough to get vehicles by. That was intended when we put it in here. It's at least 2 vehicles wide to get through here. And depending on the popularity of it, yes, there may be times where things stack up, but we also will have staff in this area at all times to help guide people around. There might be a little bit of traffic direction that needs to go on at certain times, but we do plan to make this wide enough. And this is probably bigger and more spaced out. It's much bigger than more spaced out than what we currently have at the facility. So as we get these things spread out a little bit farther, we believe there's room in there to get vehicles in and out in a reasonable manner.
Yeah.
And will that be, go ahead.
So one point worth making is, with our anticipation is that as we implement more recycling in the community with curbside, that we're going to have less of an interest in people hauling their own recyclables to drop them off here. Of course, they will have the option to do that, but we don't think it will be as significant of an amount of traffic as we currently have at our drop-off site. And then, as Justin mentioned, with the reconfiguration of how the solid waste drop-off will work, we have 35 to 40 carloads or car line customers a day for solid waste drop-off. We'd be able to handle, I think, 4 at a time at any one time,
easily, yeah.
Across 4 to 6 vehicles at a time across 2 separate roll-offs in that one area just for garbage alone. So we think that with that reconfiguration, we can get enough room for people to get in and get out without having to wait.
And will this be open? Can people want to drop off recyclable stuff or large things? Can they do that when you're closed, or is it going to be secured and they have to go someplace else?
It's planned to be secured after hours. And one of the reasons for that is because of the contamination we do see currently at the facility. We're trying to protect that commodity that's going in there. So right now it is planned to be closed. Even right now with the facility closed, there's refuse and garbage that ends up at our door every morning, things that we have to go through. So right now we're intending that to be blocked off from the community when the doors are closed. But we're also going to have extended hours. We can look at hours when we're not processing, but that area can still be open to try to serve as many customers as possible, not necessarily just hours that we're processing material.
And last question, will there be other places in Ames that people could drop things off if they want to?
Right now, the plan is to continue with the cardboard. We will likely see glass go away because we will include that in the curbside recycling. Cardboard has been the biggest commodity that we've seen in the community really grow, and there's been some demand for that. So we probably intend to look at expanding that cardboard there, but it'd probably only be cardboard right now until we see maybe a bigger demand of other things we might need across the community. The other challenge with that is remember we have to service it. So if we have other satellite stations across the community, that's something we have to continue to service, and those tend to get contaminated if they're not stationed with people there. A lot of times with staff, from resource recovery or others that can kind of keep an eye on that.
I would say I would be hesitant to see the glass dumpsters go. You would have less individual residents dropping into them, but they're all at businesses, and it might be the case that those commercial entities are using them. I mean, and if we have a pilot for how we're going to eventually require or incentivize commercial users, then that's one thing. But otherwise, I would just worry that maybe you might have a lot of commercial glass then going in the waste stream if you know what I mean? If you get rid of the
Well,
dumpsters.
I'll see and raise you one. I think, and I agree with you. My concern is people in apartments. So they're not going to be using the recycling. And so if they want to take their bottles or other glass, it gives them an opportunity to recycle where we take them away. That's out. I don't know, something to think about.
Absolutely. We can certainly, we don't intend to necessarily take them away. We can see how that program builds up. And if we are seeing that drop in usage, we can have that conversation to see if that's a better use of that space.
I had forgotten about the curbside recycling. It's going to certainly, hopefully, diminish some of the demand for that. Mark?
Yeah, we may also be able to have a container out for single stream collection to where it's not just curbside, but to where the paper, plastic, glass, and the cardboard could go into that. So then that would also include some of the multifamily residents as well.
That'd be huge.
Thank you.
I just want to be honest. I'm still struggling with the logistics of moving these vehicles in and out. And so from a layman's eyes, this is really hard for me to imagine that, because this is different than with your current facility, because your current facility doesn't have semis going in and out, 10 of them per day, right? And so once this is built out, it's going to be really hard to make changes. So does the designer we're working with, do they have the capacity to model this to show how vehicles would go in and out? And then have our staff looked at this and said, okay, that's what the model says, but is this realistic? This is the time to kick the tires on this.
Yes, absolutely. And we have done that. So we get designs from them with a program called Auto Turn, which shows all the turning movements of all the vehicles, and it shows where the queuing and stacking lines up. And we've met with the resource recovery staff twice already on this. Once, I think it was a week ago, Mark, we were in front of them for about 2 hours, sitting down, going through all the details, trying to kick the tires, because to your point, we want to make sure that what we build is usable and feasible in the future. So we are doing all those things. I think we're trying to make sure we're crossing all those T's and dotting all those I's as we get through this.
Okay. And then the facility that you're designing, does it have any capacity for expansion? So if we were to expand walls in one direction or another, that's my question, is, are we building this with any capacity for expansion? That's my question.
This has been designed based on the initial study that HDR performed, which evaluated not only what's the amount of material that's coming into this facility on day one, but how much material is going to come in and have to be processed through there 20 years after it opens. So it's designed for the volume of material in 2047, not just the volume of material we'll see in 2027.
So is that based on a target population?
It's based on, yes, an increase in solid waste that increases along with our population estimates. It incorporated assumptions from Ames Plan 2040 for our growth populations, or our population growth scenario. So it's designed to handle a pretty sizable amount of volume. What we need to remember with this facility is that we're not going to be using it to store large volumes of material. The material is going to be coming in and going out within a matter of a day. With our current facility, a large amount of the floor space is dedicated to storage. Right? It's dedicated to holding the material that we can't process immediately. And that eats up a lot of the available space for us to maneuver around in and have haulers move to and things like that. So with this facility where we're going to be processing the material pretty much as it comes in, we will have more room for haulers to have multiple haulers at one time unloading, to have different piles of different materials in different corners of the building. We'll have a lot more flexibility than we currently do.
So this is a 25-year horizon. And we have to think long-term. We don't have the margin to think short-term. So I don't want someone playing this video 25 years from now, assuming we're still not on council. Could we still be on council in 25 years? I hope not. So, but someone playing back this tape and saying, man, I wish those guys would have thought more long-term. So further thoughts on that? Is this the right planning horizon?
So this planning horizon aligns with what we know from Ames Plan 2040. It also aligns with what we know from our long-term waste disposal agreement with the Carroll County landfill. That's a 20-year agreement at a minimum. So as we approach that 20-year planning horizon, we're going to need to think about what are we going to be doing with waste at that point. So I think that certainly the possibility exists that as we approach 2047, we're looking for a different landfill alternative that might not require us to spend so much time on the road hauling the material 140 miles round trip. Maybe we're looking for some place that's closer through a new landfill opportunity that comes up between now and then, where we don't have to dedicate so much time to the transport and we can move the material through more quickly. So there's a lot up in the air between now and 2047, but that seems to be an appropriate time horizon to be planning for.
Yeah, so I think it's appropriate to have different horizons for different types of activities. And so I wouldn't want to peg the planning of this facility on our 2040 plan. That just happens to be an arbitrary date that we said we're going to be working towards. I would want to decouple that with this facility. I don't have a suggestion of what that horizon should be, but it's a whole lot better to plan for expansion on the front end than it is to try to jerry-rig something down the road when the facility doesn't really allow for that. And so, for example, the possibility of moving walls or adding different capacity. I don't even know if that's even a possibility with this.
Yeah, I think so. This facility is pretty much maxed out in terms of what we can fit on the site. So I'm not sure that we would be able to expand it very easily. The one thing that you would be able to pull a lever on is how many trucks we have on the road at one time, right? So the material that's coming out, we could try to work through getting it out faster and getting it off the floor faster. That would be the lever to pull at that point, I would think.
So I think the other point that I would add is looking at moving forward with solid waste management. Part of this is an environmental management system. So what we're looking at is those sustainability goals and increasing our landfill diversion. So this is just kind of a starting point. So as the population grows and the waste grows, our recycling potentially will start out at like 5 or 10%. And ultimately our goal would be 30% or higher. So as we move through this and kind of work through it, our MSW should potentially stay the same, even though the amounts increase, because part of that will go to be part of recycling, whether it's single stream or curbside collection or clean commodity drop off, but then also implementations of other programs such as C&D recycling. Something further down the road, we obviously have to have space, but the composting and some of those other programs that we could potentially put in place that will offset the population growth and the need for the municipal solid waste transfer.
Great. Thanks for your due diligence on this.
Okay. We'll talk briefly about the scale house, which is here, which would be the first thing that a customer or hauler would see coming into the site. In our original concept design, we had a what I call stick built on site scale house. And we've looked at a modular style scale house. This is an image of what it could look like. This is not necessarily the one. But we can save some significant dollars by going to a modular style scale house that can fit the needs of this facility. So we are proceeding with the plans for a modular style scale house, and we're still reviewing the plumbing needs on the site. And what I mean by that is the sort of toilet and restroom facilities that are necessary out there. It's based on some code requirements from the distance from the existing transfer station, and also talking with our staff of what the needs are on that. So those details are being worked out right now as we continue to move through the design development. The processing floor is where a lot of the changes you'll see from the initial concept design are going on here. So there's really 4 main items, and I'll go through each one. And I want to give you a little tour around the facility of what it looks like when the waste comes in. So we'll start with commercial haulers will come in the west door and back up, and I'm just drew a green circle here where they will dump the solid waste. From there, the waste will be loaded into the shredder by our loaders. Now, the first thing to notice is that we had originally intended to reuse the existing shredder from the facility on Center Street. However, when we removed the cross-cut door on that, we noticed some major stress fractures. That shredder has over 30,000 hours on it right now. we do not feel confident that it is the right choice to move it from that facility to a new facility. So we have directed HDR to include a new shredder in this facility. We had about $500,000 to refurbish the existing shredder. A new shredder will cost around $1 million itself. So there's about $500,000 in capital increase that we've got in the project. But we think that's an appropriate thing to do in order to be able to ensure the project can move ahead on day one. So once the material enters the shredder, it'll then move down to our ferrous metal drum magnet. And that's where the ferrous metal is removed. These are any steel or iron that's in the metal or in the waste itself. Right now, we're still proposing to reuse our existing drum magnet, but we're also evaluating that at the same time like we did our shredder. And if we need to make appropriate recommendations of looking at a new one there, possibly based on the cost of that versus rehabilitating the old one, we'll continue to work through that process as we move forward. One thing I will note is you will see this shredder is in kind of an L configuration right now. We are working with the engineer to try to get this in line to give us a little bit more floor space. So you might see that change coming up. But after it leaves the ferrous magnet drum, it goes down to what's called a non-ferrous metal separator or an eddy current separator. That's where all the non-ferrous metals removed, things like copper and aluminum. Those commodities have a very high value. So there are 2 of these in place. One of them is existing from our current plant, and the other one is new. And you need 2 of them to really get the solid waste removed off of those non-ferrous metals. And so they're in a good sellable commodity. Following that, it will follow a path to a reversing conveyor to a preload compactor. And this is probably the biggest change of all. So this preload compactor is designed to take the waste and squeeze it into a bale. And that bale is loaded into a trailer that will sit outside the facility right here. And this is important for a number of reasons. One, we're trying to maximize the density of the load that we take over to Carroll County. And also we believe this preload compactor can also squeeze out some liquids and some moisture out of that. That's just additional weight that we not only have to pay for at the landfill, but we also have to transfer there. So there's twofold advantages to that. The one caveat we have right now is we heard from the DOT on Friday that we may be limited on some of our load weights. So we're still evaluating the use of this compactor. It's about $1.5 million. But when we look at the cost of the compactor versus what we can save operationally, it'll pay for itself within the lifespan of this compactor. So we're making sure that the decisions we make to recommend to use this are the right ones financially and also from an operational standpoint.
So from a weight perspective, we load up a truck with that compacted material. Any concerns with the weight of the truck?
Yes.
Fully loaded?
Yeah, so there's probably three ways I can answer that question for you. So the first thing it's going to do is this compactor actually is going to have a weight going into that truck. It's going to know what it put in there. The second thing that we'll have on our trucks is we'll have scale weights on our trucks on the axles themselves that will tell us an axle weight inside the truck. And then the third thing is we will run these trucks over the scale before we leave the facility because we do not want to be overweight and get a violation going that way. So we're pretty confident that these compactors are pretty well suited for this equipment. So I think we feel pretty good about that.
So my question was about that, certainly, but also is it 10 trucks? Is that the number we're talking about?
Well, it depends on how much we can get into each truck. So it's anywhere between 9, probably 8 to 10, somewhere in there.
Okay. So if these weigh too much, then we obviously have to have more trucks, right? So is that all that's being calculated into the total amount per truck per load?
Correct. Yeah. I've got a big spreadsheet where we're doing this right now with the cost of the compactor and all that, trying to look at what's the most efficient way to take it.
Okay. Thanks.
Justin, just with regard to the limits, if I understand correctly, a majority of the issue is bridges.
Correct.
So bridges that will not hold the heavier weights that we might have been anticipating if we were compacting and getting as much in as possible.
Correct. There are 2 bridges that are of concern right now that are embargoed for overweight permits.
And they're both in Story County.
No, they're not in Story County. One is in Greene County and one is in the city of Carroll.
Okay.
The one in the city of Carroll, we can probably work around. There are some alternative ways for us to approach the landfill. The one in Greene County presents a challenge because there's really not a good way to get around it. Besides adding lots of miles. So we're about, like I said, this came in on Friday, and we're still trying to make sure we've got a good handle on it before we make a decision. What I would say to you is we believe there's a lot of value in this compactor and reason to do it. But before we make that decision, we want to make sure we've crossed all those bridges, not literally, but we evaluate.
That was really good.
Well, so that would load it out of the compactor there. So if you look back at the screen now, we get back to the non-ferrous separators, and we take the thought of, we know that something will happen in this facility. We'll have to do maintenance on equipment. Something will break. And so what happens if that compactor is down? And what would happen in that scenario is this would be a reversing type conveyor that would put shredded material onto the floor, which would then be loaded into trucks into the transfer tunnel itself. So it's a way that we can isolate that compactor from the system and still be able to achieve our goals of moving solid waste. Furthermore, we can think, what happens if the shredder or the one of the metal separators are down? We intend to be able to still load the compactor and isolate it from the system and use a compactor to load out if one of these other pieces of equipment needs maintenance. And the last thing, in the worst case scenario, if we are unable to use any of the equipment, say there's a power outage or something happens, we can still directly transfer. So we're building in redundancy into this system, so that way we don't rely on one single source of way to make sure solid waste can leave this facility. So we've got multiple ways of redundancy built into this, and I think that's a very important thing when we look at the longevity of this facility and the way we will operate it.
Is this all on grade, this level?
Yes, this is all the same level except for the transfer tunnel right here. This is the one that's down 8 feet from that floor, if you recall one of the first slides. That's the only area that's down that low. Otherwise, it's all the same height. Thank you. These right here where the scrap drum is, and then under the non-ferrous, these are where roll-offs will be that will recover the recovered metals and any leftover solid waste. That's the only places that are not of the same grade.
Great, thanks.
Next, I want to talk about the operations area and the offices. So we have gone with a 2-story facility here, and I'll talk about the second story in a minute on the operations on why, but I want to start with this first floor. The first thing you'll see down here in the corner is a maintenance area. Mark and his staff spend a lot of time maintaining the equipment there. There's a lot of hard facing of material, a lot of welding, a lot of fabricating that happens in order to keep this equipment moving. So a maintenance area is incredibly important to them. We have break rooms for the staff. We have locker rooms with showers and toilets that are separated from the locker room areas. So it's more of a unisex locker room, shower, toilet area. And then mechanical and electrical rooms down there. We have a reception area and a vestibule in the front, and elevator to get the users up to the second floor as necessary there. The second floor, in this layout right here, we have the operations center, which is kind of the heartbeat of the entire facility, with views out into the processing area. And there will also be cameras that'll be out there to see what's going on every conveyor and all that sort of stuff like we have now in the current facility. We have offices for the staff that's out there, the administrative staff. And one of the biggest things that we have at our current facility that we think is important to continue here is the education. We receive maybe once a week, and Mark can probably say even more than that, tour groups of our current facility. And we are still going to be one of the few places in Iowa, a few places in the nation that still processes waste the way that we do. And it's important that we continue to educate the community. A lot of times youth groups, a lot of times school districts come and see us, and we want to continue to be able to facilitate that. So this is a lot bigger education area. We have windows out into the processing area so they can see what's going on. We want to honor what we've done for the past 50 years in waste to energy. So we plan to have that inside this education area as well. So we can talk about how we got to where we were and where we're going in the future with the future of solid waste. So one of the big reasons for that second floor is so these operations staff can have a better view across the facility and a better view of what's going on for the safety of those in it, for the safety and the operations of how we work through the facility.
Justin, where would those people park? You have that plan. So scout group comes in, where will those people park?
So as you can see right now, it's already one of the comments we've made. This is the general parking here, and it's not quite big enough for what we need. And we've already recognized that. So we'll probably see a bigger parking area. This will probably not connect through. We'll have some bus pull-off area for that area as well. So we're trying to plan for those areas. We also have some equipment storage if we have multiple buses that come in and we need to park them out of the way. We think we can handle them during the day, but I think you'll see a larger parking area for that in here.
Okay, thanks.
Some of the financial modeling, our current tipping fee, if you recall, is $75 a ton. In June, we presented to you that we believe we need to be at $95.11 a ton when the facility opens in 2027. That is still a number that we think we can achieve with our current construction cost here of $16.8 million. Some of the things that we talked about, especially on the mechanical side, that add millions of dollars in capital cost, we believe we have operational savings because of that. And some of those operational savings lead us to the belief that this 9511 is still the right dollar amount for our tipping fee when we open the facility. I also want to point out that number does not include the paving of Friel Drive, which is adjacent to the facility, and does not include the mobile equipment, the trucks and trailers. We will be bringing those back to council at a future date with a solution to finance those using some different methods. Some of the outreach we've done, we've had multiple public tabling events and service organizations where we've presented on this facility. Kiwanis, Rotary, that sort of stuff. We've been to those. We've held some open house events, including for our 28E partner communities. We had one right here in the council chambers. We had pretty good turnout there. We had some haulers that came to it as well. We also held a specific open house for the haulers about a week ago once we got these 60% design plans to show them to the haulers to solicit feedback from them to make sure that it's going to fulfill their needs and the needs of the community moving forward. Brian and Steve and I and the mayor were also at the Story County Board of Supervisors a week ago, talking again about the 2080 agreements and an update on this facility there, and talking to those communities about the future of this facility. Finally, we've started a recycled report, which is a biweekly e-newsletter that is going out to all the haulers. It's going out to the 2080 partner communities, going out to Boone County. It's going out to elected officials within our community and others. And we're really trying to share an update twice a month on what's going on with this facility and how we're moving forward. Additionally, we're meeting with Susan and her staff of really planning out a rollout, not only with recycling, but with how this facility fits within the community over the next 16, 18 months, and how we're going to ensure that we have a smooth transition from one to the other so the community sees what's going on with this as well. So we're already web mapping or mapping that out so we have a good idea how to get there and keep the communication moving on it. So finally, some upcoming activities that council will see in about a month. We expect to have 90% drawings, which means we're really at the detail stage and there's just little minor things that need to change. So that'll be around the end of this mid to end of December. Following that, we will have an issued for bid set probably around the end of January. We'll bring back to council looking to move into bidding. We expect bidding to happen in February with construction starting in likely late March to April of 2026. Additionally, we expect to have agreements from our 2080 partners, those that choose to sign back on with us here in the early part of 2026. We have asked for them to have information back to us sometime in January of 26, so we can continue to move that part of it forward as well and keep the project informed of who's in and who's out for the R3C project here. You'll also see some site clearing going on. Some tree removal has to happen before April 1 at the existing site. So that will happen over the winter, likely in January and into February. We'll have some trees that will come down there in advance of the site work that'll happen with the construction. The recycling RFP will be brought back to council likely in January of 26. So we'll have another look at things there, some results of the pricing and how that shakes out, and how that will use this facility once it's in place to collect that recycling and take it to a material recovery facility. And finally, you'll see some information about the mobile equipment procurement. We'll be asking council for some approval to purchase some trucks. That'll likely be in the January, February range as well. Those are roughly a year out to get that equipment. We want that in place as soon as the facility is open so we can start transfer as quickly as we can. And with that, I will happily entertain any other questions you may have.
Thank you, Justin. Questions?
I just had a general question about the HVAC and air handling. So are there special systems that you use for these types of facilities, or is it just your regular?
So there's, I'll do my best to answer that. So the air handling units for the offices themselves are pretty standard, air source heat pumps. In fact, on this drawing here, that's what this interesting little drawing on the outside is right there. And we're working with our designer to talk through how that sits and whether or not there's other options for it. But onto the tipping floor, there's a little bit different. So the tipping floor is pretty well open. We do have some ventilating requirements that we have in there just in case there are fires. That's the big thing. And probably not in case there will be fires. It just happens in solid waste. So we have to be able to move that smoke and those particulates out. This will be a lot different than our current facility, though, where we have a very extensive air handling unit and bag house and whatnot on top of that facility, because in the current resource recovery process, we do a lot of fine shredding of that material to make it into a burnable product. We won't be doing as much here. Now, there will still be some, but it won't be anywhere near the amount that we have at the current facility. So it'll be much less than what we have right now. I don't know, Mark, if you got anything else to add to that air handling unit that you currently have or not?
So for the air handler that we have for the HVAC system, the education and the office area, all that goes through a carbon filtration system as well. So it's pulling a lot of that out, and you don't have those odors getting pulled through the office area.
And I don't know where you're going with this, Nita, but it's an important question. One of the concerns we have with our existing facility is the odors. And so are we implementing any kind of newer technology for trying to capture the odors more on site to keep them from, is that
Yeah,
something we're looking at?
I don't know if there's a lot of technology to do that. But I think to your point, a lot of the odor comes when that material has to sit for a number of days. And so in this facility, as Brian had said earlier, we do not intend for it to sit overnight. You know, if we bring in a commercial hauler, it comes in at 3:00, that stuff will probably sit to the morning, but it's the first stuff to go out at 5:00 the next morning. So I think we'll see a lot of difference that way, because we will not have times where we're waiting for an RDF bin to be full, or we have some power plant issues that we need to work through. That we don't intend for municipal solid waste to sit. And that's when a lot of times when it starts to have the odor issues.
In fact, the DNR requirements for a transfer station specifically require that it not sit for more than a certain number of days. So we're gonna be moving that material out fairly quickly.
And then have we had any feedback from our 28E partners to date that would be important for council to know so far? A general interest in this, concerns, what?
I would say it's a mix. We've had conversations with some representatives of different communities. Some are concerned about the potential impact of the increased tipping fee on their solid waste hauling contract costs for residents.
Right.
Others have expressed that they are fine with the proposed new 2080 agreements. I think it depends on the community, and certainly the size of the community determines, and the location of the other communities determines whether they may have other alternatives. We're trying to work with them to the extent that we can, but we don't have a lot of room to modify how we make this operation work with respect to the other communities. We are striving very hard in the financials to ensure that we are not assuming that there would be an increase in the per capita, right? Because the other communities, they have the same or greater budget constraints than we do at the city of Ames, and so raising taxes or fees to pay for the per capita fee that's owed to us would be a challenge. So we're trying to move all of those increased costs that we know are going to be necessary for the facility onto the user fee side. So it's ultimately a pay as you throw. The more you dispose of, the more you're going to pay for it.
And my final question, I'm really interested in the process as we think about getting bids for this. So this is sort of a unique structure. And so are there opportunities for us to identify contractors that this is sort of a wheelhouse project for them? And can we proactively reach out to them and encourage them to be bidding? Or we just sort of post this and let the tide brings in what it brings in? It's going to be really important for us to have a competitive bidding process. And if we can encourage a greater number of bids, that certainly helps us. Could you speak to that?
This is the exact reason that we are using the construction manager process on this. They assist us in not only the bid development to make sure that our bid packages are appropriate for the contractors in Iowa and in central Iowa specifically that can use this, but also they can help us go out and solicit those in advance right now. We've already had a meeting today. We have a meeting every week about this project, but we had a meeting with Story Construction today talking about identifying some specific contractors for our equipment side of things to make sure we've got the right people in place on bid day, to very much to your point. So those specific things that are unique, like the equipment, we're already going down that path and trying to identify them and making sure they know about it, they're aware of it, and so when the time comes, they're eager to get on it. So we're working down that path.
So you'll recall we use this process for the Fitch Family Indoor Aquatic Center,
Right.
where we divided out the work. Instead of having one prime contractor, we divided out the work into about a dozen different bid packages. And then we, on bid day, received just shy of 100 bids. I think it was in 80, 90 bids for all of those different individual bid packages. We're doing the same thing here with perhaps a little different combination of what is in each bid package. We're thinking maybe there might be 9 or 10 depending on how it all shakes out. But we're relying on Story Construction, who we've hired to be our construction manager for this project, to identify what is going to be the most competitive bid package or package of different components that individual bidders would bid on. And so we're going to have electrical and plumbing and HVAC and all those different individual components separated out. So their Story Construction is also already starting to beat the bushes and let potential bidders know about this project and when the timing is and what the project could look like in order to drum up interest from bidders on bid day.
I just really appreciate your forward thinking on that. This is my final question. Mark, when we talked about this before, I wanted to make sure this process involved your frontline workers. So do you feel like that you and your team have had meaningful input in getting us to this point today?
Yes, yeah, very much so. We've met with them multiple times prior to the process of the engineering, just looking at what services, the equipment, the processing, the access of maintenance, the flow of the trucks, pretty much everything start to finish over the last year as we've been looking at a new facility, but really heavily over the last couple months. Sitting down, going through them, through the drawings with them, bouncing ideas off of each other. What are we missing? What do we need to make cuts for the current to make sure that the project is successful? But making sure that everybody knows that we're building a redundant system to where no matter what, we've got that customer service for the commercial haulers and the residents, and then also the sustainability for Ames.
I think we'd be foolish not to take into account the feedback from your team. So thanks for that.
All right. Very good. Gentlemen, thank you for the update, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, move on. Item number 24, entertain motion on second reading on rezoning property at 22220 to 400 Field Drive from general industrial to governmental airport district.
Move on second.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Rollins.
Aye.
Corriere.
Aye.
Garten.
Aye.
Junk.
Aye.
Fetcher.
Aye.
Beatty Hansen.
Aye.
And we'll move on to item number 25, entertain motion on third reading and adoption of ordinance number 4576 on zoning text amendment to amend material standards for off-street parking areas and driveways for agricultural equipment in the Research Park Innovation District.
Move on third.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Corriere. Aye. Garten.
Aye.
Junk.
Aye.
Fetcher.
Aye.
Beatty Hansen.
Aye.
Rollins.
Aye.
Thank you. Move on to dispositions of communications to council. We have two items tonight. The first is a letter from Travis Tolliver, Ames Main Street Executive Director, with a very brief update and asking to be put on the agenda for the 19th of December. just to give a quick oral update.
I would move we do that.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. And the second is an email from Alicia Robeck. Request for zoning text amendment to accessory. This would be actually accessory
Structures.
structure, not dwelling unit, structure. Is there a motion to request a memo from staff on this? Or is there an interest in doing this? I guess if there is, it'd be appropriate to be asking for a memo.
Steve, do you have any thoughts on this one?
No, if you need information to make your decision, then you should request a memo. Give you a better idea what we're talking about here, what she's talking about.
It's a large size lot. They want to put a larger than normal garage, 1,600 square feet instead of 900, but they're arguing that the lot is very, very large, so it wouldn't be out of proportion. That's what they're asking. So they're asking for lots over 20,000 square feet to have a different rule than lots under 20,000.
Is there interest for a memo on this? If there's not, entertain a motion just to take no action, and we'll communicate that to the applicant.
So moved.
No interest?
Right.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Mayor?
Yes.
I noticed that the motion for Travis Tolliver's request was to put it on the 19th. Our meeting is on the 16th.
The
16th,
16th
but the
in the
letter.
text of the.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you.
the
It
letter
is.
says 16th.
It'll be for the last meeting of the year, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Or he could come on the 19th and no one will be here.
I think you'll like that.
All right, reports of governing body. Any reports tonight from Discover Ames?
There really wasn't much to note, just some transition of board members, review of normal reports, so nothing material to report.
Thank you.
I think there was just a bit of interesting data about the Airbnbs.
Oh, yeah, sure.
There
Talk
are
about that. That's good.
There are about 114 of them in Story County. 22 of those are outside Ames, but that accounted for 16,000 plus room nights. So
Yeah, that was interesting.
they're doing good business here, but
Yeah.
appear to not be taking away from hotels and motels.
Yeah, and they pay hotel motel tax, so.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
How about AREA?
We heard from Jason Henderson, the ISU Vice President for Extension, who gave us some interesting thoughts on the Iowa economy and public-private partnerships. And one of the things that he said struck me, and that was that almost 40% of our Federal Reserve region is low and moderate income.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that statistic. We were notified about Travis coming to council with those requests. And we also were told about the upcoming housing summit on February 27th from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., which is starting with an Alliance board meeting at 7 in the Cobblestone Inn in Boone. And Reynolds Kramer is going to be kicking off as a speaker. And then Debbie Durham will do a keynote at noon. And there will be a bus tour of the efforts to increase housing in Boone starting at around 3 p.m. And it sounds like a good opportunity to learn what's being done elsewhere. And it's generally designed for government decision makers. So
What was the day and time again?
it is, I think it's Friday, February 27th from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And it's over in Boone.
Thank you. Story County Emergency Management will not be meeting until a few weeks, where we talk about budget for next year. Transit.
We approved a proposal from the Public Arts Commission to incorporate some different sculptures along the #1 Red Route. Also, you saw tonight we accepted the contract for the 2 new diesel buses. But probably most exciting was the $14.6 million federal grant that SIRIDE won from the Federal Transit Administration's Bus and Bus Facilities Competitive Program. So this will help us expand our administrative maintenance and bus storage facility, and then also a program to convert 20 buses to B100 100% biodiesel.
Good, thanks you. All right, council comments. I think I saw Emily. Are you still there, Emily?
I am, yes. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I don't really have anything for you guys. I'm gonna be picking a date for the spring meeting when we get back and just booking the room for all that, so I'll let you know when the spring meeting is once we have that room. So that's all I've got.
Thank
I
you.
hope everyone enjoys the holiday.
Do the same, please. Gloria?
I just wanted to put in a plug for the Wreaths Across America ceremony and volunteering to lay wreaths. It's a really wonderful experience, and I hope that I am free this year to do that. And happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, same to you. All right, Bronwyn?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Nita?
Nothing for me tonight.
Nothing for me.
So this is a time of gratitude and grateful for those who are serving our country overseas. I was at a scout event where one of the parents was serving overseas, and the scouts were writing a note to this dad who was overseas at a time during the holidays. And we have city staff that don't get to take Thanksgiving, so they're out taking care of us, that allow us to celebrate. So we appreciate our city staff particularly this time.
Thank you. Rachel?
Nothing today.
And I would just echo the comments regarding wishing our entire community a happy and safe Thanksgiving. And we'll move on to item 27. Mark, does council have justification to go into closed session?
Yes, Mayor, you do. Iowa Code Section 21.51C allows the council to go into closed session to discuss matters presently in litigation or where litigation is imminent.
Thank you. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Garten.
Aye.
Junk.
Aye.
Betcher.
Aye.
Beatty Hansen.
Aye.
Rollins.
Aye.
Corriere.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, we are back in open session. Is there a motion to direct staff and legal counsel to proceed as discussed during closed session?
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Butcher,
Aye.
Edie Hansen,
Aye.
Rollins,
Aye.
Corriere,
Aye.
Garten,
Aye.
Junk.
Aye.
Very good. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move we adjourn.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.